Monster entrepreneur with a huge heart. What got you into that? Where would it even start? Like you said, I want to sell businesses.
So I sold my first company when I was 18 years old. And that's when the light bulb went off, man. I didn't want to work with somebody else. I would work 80 hours for myself and get paid less than I would go work 40 hours with somebody else and get paid more. I did not want to work for somebody else. I was allergic to it. I mean, I started working when I was 8 years old, and I went out and knocked on doors until it was dark every night. I think the reason I got to where I'm at right now is that those psychological habits were formed when I was young, because I would go and get told no so many times and I would get a yes, and I would get so excited about it. And I just thought, well, the more no's I get, the more yeses I'll get.
They won't give you a seat at the table. Build your own goddamn table.
I go from being worth, if I were to create a liquidity event, I was worth 8 to 10 million, and I went to being $2 million underwater, like this. I had friends that I thought loved me, people that had whiskey with me, and there I stood at that window all by myself, looking out over Kansas City. I felt like the loneliest person on the planet. And I thought, how could I be in this mess? And it was because
a man who only measures his success by the success of his people.
It's not about money, man. It's about who you work with.
Relationships.
It's like how do you help other people? That's what it's about.
It's in this episode right now, Chad Peterson. Big change, obviously, coming from Phoenix. I appreciate you coming in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm glad to be here.
So obviously one of the main focuses of a lot of the conversations I have is figuring out you as a business owner. Why did you start your business? Like, you're now in terms of brokering side of things. I know that's not the best description, but kind of say it. What got you into that? Where would it even start? Like you said, I want to sell businesses. I want to buy businesses.
For me, it was a natural progression because, number one, I didn't know that you could sell a business. I had no clue that you could sell your business. So I was young. I was running a business. I didn't want to work with somebody else. I would work 80 hours for myself and get paid less than I would go work 40 hours with somebody else and get paid more. I did not want to work for somebody else. I was allergic to it.
Where did that start? Like, what caused that?
I don't have a clue, man. I didn't want to be under somebody else's thumb.
Gotcha. How old were you then?
8 years old.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I started working when I was 8 years old, and I went out and knocked on doors until it was dark every night to see if a homeowner would allow me to walk their dog or pick up dog shit or mow their grass or whatever. I would just knock on doors and just get money for doing something around the house. And then I built a business in my teenage years, and I was doing pretty good, really, probably making $50,000, $60,000 a year, but it was because I was relentless.
Wow. That's
fun. I was relentless, and I wanted to go fly planes, but I didn't want to be in the military, probably for the same reason. I don't want to be under somebody else's thumb. And so a guy by the name of Jerry, he owned a company in my hometown, and he owned a big lawn and landscaping company. They probably did, $15 million a year. I was just a little small operator.
A lot of hardscape, like kind of 15 million, or not just maintenance?
Oh, everything.
Gotcha.
Everything. I mean, they did everything under the sun. One of the biggest in the Midwest. And he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to fly planes." And he said, "Well, how are you going to do that?" And I said, "I have no idea. You going to go to the military?" "No, I'm not doing that." And he said, "Why don't I buy your business from you?" I had no clue. Like, buy my what, man? I got a lawnmower and a piece of shit trailer, and what do you mean buy my business? I had no idea. And he said, "Well, there's value here because I don't have to go get all that business, and you've already done it, and you have a good name, and all I have to do is take over your contracts." So I know when to shut my mouth, so I did. And a couple weeks later, he had a value for me. He said, "Hey, Chad, come talk to me." I went to his house, paid me for. He didn't pay me then, but he said, "This is what I'll pay you for it." And I didn't have a negotiation for him at all. I said, "Okay, it's good enough for me." So I sold my first company when I was 18 years old. And that's when the light bulb went off, man. I was like, wait a minute, I can work on something, work my ass off on it, go do the hard grinding work that other people don't want to do, knock on doors. And, if there's one thing that I am is relentless. Like, I almost have no give up to me at all. Like, I just get knocked down, get back up again. Like, that didn't faze me. So that's what I would do. I would get told no, 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 no. And then I'd get a yes. I'd be like, okay, great. So,
Reinvigorated right then and there.
oh
right?
yeah. I'm like, great. You'll pay me $30 to do this, man. You could have given me $1 million. That's what it felt like to me, making $30 as a kid. And so I think the reason I got to where I'm at right now is that those psychological habits were formed when I was young, because I would go and get told no so many times and I would get a yes, and I would get so excited about it. And I just thought, well, the more no's I get, the more yeses I'll get. And I kept doing that. And that was what I did after school. So at 18, 19 years old, sold my company. And I realized then that's all I have to do. I just have to build a company for 3 years and sell it. And I can sell it for 3 times what I'm making. It's like a service.
Sorry, not to interrupt. That was the destination each time, 3 years? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why the magic number? Because that was the first one happened that way? Or
Well, because people don't understand that there's a difference between a business owner, an entrepreneur, and a manager. They're totally different. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a manager. I don't manage people. I can't stand it. So I'm an entrepreneur. I go build things. I see things. I see where there's a hole in the market. I'll do the work that nobody else will have the relentless nature to do, and I'll go do it. By the time I've ran it for 3 years or so, I'm already tired of it. But a business owner or a business manager, they'll buy it from me because they don't want to go do what I just did. So yeah, I ended up going to flight school, and I went down to Florida flight schools. I went to Comair, which is owned by Delta, and then I went to Airline Training Academy. And I was flying planes. I became a commercial airline pilot before I could drink a beer legally, and got hired at American Eagle. I was supposed to go to Houston in January of 2002. I was in the air flying a plane in 9/11. Lost my job, I don't know, 2 months after that, 2.5 months after that. Had a baby on the way with a woman that I didn't like, and I still don't. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. So I went back to square one. I went and built a company. I sold it in 3 years. Built a company, sold it in 2 years. And then I just got so good at that, I started doing sales for other people. And so I created a philosophy out of it called quantum stack investing. And I wrote a book about it. It's where you build a business, it's cash flowing, and you protect cash flow, and you keep your cash flow high. You don't grow for the sake of growth. You grow for the sake of cash flow, and you sell your business, and then do it over again. So I show people how to become wealthy using liquidity events, not paychecks. So if you just keep working in your business, you're making paychecks, you're not really going to gain that much wealth accumulation. You sell it, create a liquidity event, and then move that liquidity forward to what we call the NLB, the next larger business. So that's how I got here.
Gotcha. Let's go back a couple years. Let's go back to you're 8 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many brothers and sister in the household?
I had a half brother from a different marriage. I came 5 years after he did. So,
Okay.
So my mom was 18, 19 with him, and his name's Jared. He's a half brother of mine, and from a different dad. And he was a gun guy, real big handgun guy. And he put different grips on his gun, and they weren't really fit for the gun. And he was being a little bit cavalier, I guess, and somebody gave him shit about having these new grips on his gun that weren't really for the gun because it kind of got in the way of some of the mechanisms of the gun. And he's like, I'm fine. And that was it.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
What age was that?
Well, my mom had just had my brother. So my brother was, I don't know, maybe 6 months or a year. I don't know. I wasn't on the set yet.
So back up. I'm sorry. The half brother, you're saying the father of the half brother. That's what he ended up.
Yeah, his name was Ronnie. Yep. Okay. Down in Texas, down in, I think, Fort Worth, Texas. Yeah.
Passed away instantly?
Yeah. He put the gun up to his head and said, I'm fine. Like, I trust my gun. I trust these new grips. They're not going to get in the way of the trigger or whatever. And that was it. So
your father's divorced, I'm assuming, at that point, or they never got together?
No, I wasn't on the set yet. So that was my brother, my half brother, and
Gotcha.
my mom.
Okay.
And so after that, my dad fell in love with my mom and this little boy, Jared. And then they made me. So I was born in 1978. And then my mom and dad were divorced within, I don't know, a year of having me probably.
Okay.
And that was it. Yeah. And then I was raised by my mom for the rest of my life.
Dad never, was he involved? Do you have a relationship with him now?
Man, my dad's dead now, but I absolutely loved my dad, and I wish he was here still to this day. And if you met my dad, you would love my dad. Everybody loved my old man. But he couldn't read or write, so he was born premature, and he was born so premature that they would put him inside my grandfather's shoe. That's how little he was. Oh, wow. Because back in those days, I don't know the weeks, but if you're not born by a certain time, being in the oven long enough.
40 weeks.
Yeah, I think back then it was even higher.
Really?
They couldn't medically, but he was born way less than that.
Okay.
And so he wasn't really supposed to survive, and he was born with disabilities from him being born so preemie, so he couldn't read or write. So when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I was reading his mail to him, and I was helping him write things out and things like that. So my dad couldn't read or write, and he was an alcoholic. So by the time he died, he had 16 DUIs.
Wow.
So he had his 15th and just got his 16th about 3 or 4 months before he died.
Did he have to do any jail time for any of those, or it was just different times back then?
My grandfather was a cop, and he got most of those DUIs back then when it wasn't like a crazy offense. Now you get a DUI, you might as well, commit murder. It's like they just take it so seriously.
They consider it a violent crime, actually.
Yeah,
DUIs are considered violent crimes.
Right, yeah, they've just criminalized it to death now. But back then, it was like, hey, how far are you away from your house? Okay, we'll get you home, that kind of thing. And then my grandfather retired after a cop drug him into jail. And, my grandfather was of the belief, like, it's not that big of a deal, just get him home. That's the mentality back then versus now. And so then whenever it started to really get criminalized, whenever Mothers Against Drunk Driving really made a push, they become more severe, and they tried to put him on anabuse, which is a drug that if you take it and you drink, you'll get violently sick. So my dad just went to the doctor and had the doctor write him a script that said that he's allergic to anabuse. So my dad was committed to this. And
He was a hustler.
well, he was really good friends with his doctor.
Okay.
That's the deal, family friend. And so, so my dad just kept on drinking. So was my dad involved with me? A little bit, but it's hard to be involved with your son whenever you can't drive. So he could never drive, never had a driver's license.
Couldn't go to sporting events if you're doing
Nope.
sporting events. Do whatever.
Nope. And I don't hold any resentment towards him for that. I don't hold any anger for him whatsoever at all.
So that 8-year-old who all of a sudden has this tremendous work ethic, right? Do you ever think, you said, I don't know where it came from, right? Do you ever kind of see patterns and say, well, maybe this is the reason? I see my father can't read or write, and now, as an 8-year-old, maybe I'm not really happy with that overall, and I don't want to see that, I'm reading his mail. I don't want to end up like that. I know I'm going to take control at this point. Do you see kind of any impetus there?
Well, I do. But the reason I say I don't know is because my mom and my aunt and my uncle and even my brother said that I just came out that way. I was really adventurous as a kid. I would climb out of the crib. I got out of the front door when I was young. I escaped. I didn't want anybody to do anything for me. I would just say, I do it self. I do it self. I don't need it. I'll do it.
Don't feed me. Don't dress me.
I just wanted to do things on my own. So chicken or the egg, I don't know. But there's probably a lot of Sigmund Freud connections you could make there to say, well, okay, dad was this, mom was this, and whatever. I don't know if that's the whole enchilada. It's whether or not you believe in nature or nurture. Was it nurturing that made people the way they are, or nature? And I'm going to have to say it's more genetic and nature on my end, because if you look at my upline, look at my grandfather, he was a 32nd degree Mason. He was a gambler, and he had most of the oil boys broke in Kilgore, Texas before he was 21 years old. He was just a real smart gambling shark type guy. His brother, built like me, 6'1", 250, tough as nails, fun, gregarious, was a pilot, told you how it was, didn't mince his words, loyal, what he said he'd do for you, he'd do for you. If he said no, that was a no. Yes was a yes. When you look up my upline, that's what I got. And so you look at my dad, he was illiterate. Well, that's a birth defect. So I think most of who I am is nature, not nurture. But I think it was probably reinforced by having a volatile mother who wasn't very stable financially or emotionally. And then I went out and worked because if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And I'll do it myself. I don't need you to do it for me. That's the complete answer.
Gotcha. So your mother gets divorced when you're one-ish, right? I think that's what we have. Did she get remarried at that time?
My mom was married last time we knew 7 times.
7 times.
Yeah. So she was
She likes marriage.
Yep. Yep. And to be fair to her, I think that she wanted the typical house and, white picket fence. I just think that she wasn't a vibrational match to it. I don't think that she was aligned with that herself. So she wanted it, but she wasn't a match to it. So she kept trying it and kept trying it. And she leaped before she looked. And I don't really hold any resentment or upset for that either. I just think she screwed up a lot. Yeah.
Have you taken care of her more later on in life, or you've kind of just allowed her decisions that she's made along she was an adult, she made those decisions. I'm going to let, her take care of herself.
I probably should, for long-term reasons for myself. I probably should take care of her. The problem is that I won't, and here's why. And it's a boundary for me that I won't. So, my other grandfather owned funeral homes since 1864, Carson Funeral Homes in Independence, Missouri, and my grandmother ended up. I loved my grandmother. I was very close to her, but my grandfather died. She ended up taking over the funeral homes. And she didn't really know how to run the funeral homes, frankly. But long story short, she ended up hiring an attorney by the name of Jim Workin. And he taught at UMKC, and he was this big shot lawyer. It was Jim working for you, something like that, a lawyer. And crooked as hell. So we had 2 funeral homes. We had the first crematory in Kansas City, and I was sitting there assisting burning of the bodies when I was 14, 15 years old. The cardboard caskets and everything. And
does it smell as bad as I would think it would?
No, because they come out of the freezer. And they're in a cardboard casket. Looks like a casket. You roll them in, and it's just like an oven. You turn it on. It's just that easy. But so I was around all that, which is a whole other story. I used to play hide and seek in caskets. But my grandmother died, and Jim Workin was the executor of the estate.
Power of attorney.
Yeah,
like
the
that.
executor of the estate or whatever it was. And there wasn't a lot of money at stake. Let's just say there was maybe $4 million or $5 million at stake.
Some people would think that's a lot of money.
Well,
You've done very well in life, obviously.
well, it's a lot of money, I guess.
Especially given the time, I'm assuming, too.
Well, I'm saying, like, once you look at a whole family and you look at the properties and all that and what it takes, like, it wasn't like I was going to get $5 million or anything like that. But I had $40,000 coming to me out of that, and then I had a lifetime of income with the one funeral home that was in the estate that said that this funeral home off of 87th and Blue Ridge in Kansas City, Missouri, or Independence, Missouri, rather. That funeral home was to pay me and the other family members for the rest of our lives. Well, at least back then in those days, owning a funeral home was about as, profitable as owning a hospital. People are being born just as much as they're dying. Nowadays, it's more of a cremation model now. They're not making as much money. But back then, I would have had income the rest of my life. It could have been $5,000 a month, could have been $15,000 a month for the rest of my life, right? Well, my mom made sure that I wasn't paid because I wasn't playing by her rules. And that's against the rules of the estate. Okay. And my rules were, I'm not going to listen to your shit. Get off of my back about whatever doesn't matter and you're making matter. And so she made sure that I wasn't paid. I was the only person out of the whole family that wasn't paid. And then come to find out that she was in bed, literally, with the attorney, Jim Workin. And she ended up taking him to trial. Lost the trial. He lost his law license, and we went past the statute of limitations, and we never saw a dime of that $4 or $5 million.
And that all sat in his estate, or that
It basically got squandered by him and his law firm. He went to prison for it, and the funeral home that was supposed to be long term to pay us he ended up selling it for a song. Probably sold it for $200,000, but probably did a backdoor deal. I don't know. If I looked at the deal now, I would tell you what happened. But back then, I was in flight school. I was 21 years old, and she died, and this guy did all this crooked stuff, and so the whole family dispersed. The greed at the graveside, plus the abhorrent irresponsibility around the handling of the estate, the whole family just fled. So hardly any of us talk to anybody anymore. Family business, dispersed. Nobody got any money. Everybody's pissed off at everybody, and that's just how it is.
So flowing through the timeline, 8 years old, you build up this landscaping company doing jobs for everybody, and that kind of builds up till, what, 18 roughly?
Yeah, 18.
Okay. And at that time, how many clients did you have?
About 25.
25 clients.
Yeah.
Roaming around, and that was in Independence as well?
No, it was in Overland Park, Kansas. I was a poor kid on the I was a poor kid in a rather well-to-do area. I lived in a place called Quivira Falls, where the greatest neighborhood to live in as a kid, really. But ponds, creeks, volleyball courts, tennis courts, 2 pools. It was awesome. I loved my childhood, but I lived on the poorer side of town. But I lived in this area where it was like a farm that they turned into a development, and so I enjoyed it.
My understanding is you work with somebody you've known for 44 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, he lived 5 houses down from me in that same neighborhood.
Did you guys work together then at all?
We've worked
Doing
together.
lawns?
We've worked together our whole lives, pretty much.
Gotcha.
But he went this way, and I went that way for a little while, and he went to New Mexico and came back. But yeah, Lance and I have been working together for most of our lives.
So you sell the business. You want to go to flight school, right? Why a flight? I mean, I heard grandfather. I just heard that in there. He's obviously a pilot. Is that now kind of like, I'm getting a little bit maternal side from your grandmother. Do you have that paternal side from your grandfather?
I never knew that my grandfather's brother was a pilot. I never knew that. I just had a fascination with planes. For some kids, it's Army men. For some kids, it's the fire trucks. For some kids, it's whatever. I mean, for me, it was airplanes, and I still love airplanes. I love being around them. I love the smell of them. I love the smell of the fuel. I love it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So in terms of the go to flight school, you get on with American Eagle, 9/11 happens, you're in the air. Tell me about some of the feelings. I'm assuming something comes over the radio at that time. Is that correct?
Yeah. So here's how it goes. If you're up in the air, if you're up in, you're piloting a plane, air traffic control or center. Okay. So center, whenever you're flying across the country in a commercial airliner, most of the time you're being talked to by center, not air traffic control. Okay, so center is a very, very dark room, and there's people that are sitting on 15 and 20-minute shifts, and that's all they do. And these guys have the worst job in the world. They sit there and they look at pretty much a circular screen like this for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then somebody will come tap on the shoulder after they've viewed the planes for a minute to make sure they know what's going on. Okay, I relieve you. I'm in control.
I assume your eyes start crossing.
Yes, exactly.
Much longer than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's guys that live this miserable existence, and they live in what they call centers. So whenever you're either being talked to by center or air traffic control, they're talking to you. But sometimes you can hear them talking to somebody else, but they're never going to talk to all pilots. It just doesn't happen. And so on this day, I was told. Of course, we look back on 9/11 and we think that we all kind of knew what was going on, because that's what we like to act like, oh yeah, 9/11, no big deal. But on 9/11, it was a big deal, and I didn't know what was going on. And I'm in a plane, and I'm told to take a different heading. But Florida's
Where were you? Where were you flying?
I was coming in over the Gulf of Florida. I was coming west to east,
Okay.
Coming right in over the beach, coming over the water, heading directly towards. In fact, I was coming in over Tiger Woods' house, ironically. I used to fly over his house all the time. and I was heading towards then international, and I knew where I was going. But Florida's like an inch wide, right? And when you're flying a plane, that inch means a lot because you could run into a military operations zone, you could go into an unrestricted zone. And so I thought I did that. I was like, oh man, did I screw up here or whatever? I didn't know what was going on.
That was the blight,
Yeah,
blinking light. Like, what did I do?
Yeah, right. Like, why am I getting a different heading, right? And I said, and I asked, traffic? We have traffic? No, immediately turn. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I go a different direction. And then I start hearing other things. And then I hear other pilots saying, what the hell is going on, whatever. Well, then they opened up all comms to all pilots. And they said, all pilots, listen up. We're going to tell you your tail number. We're going to tell you which direction to head. All pilots do not enter Orlando International Airspace, which is where George W. Bush was. So Air Force One was there, parked at International. He was at the
school reading.
The school,
at the time,
the kindergarten. I don't give a shit what anybody says. He knew about 9/11. All you have to do is look up the 28 redacted pages. He knew about 9/11. They told him about 9/11. They told him why he was reading to those kids, and he just kind of nodded like, yeah, okay. So the Saudis are in that. Buildings don't fall at zero gravity by themselves. They need work. Any demolition crew in the world would tell you cannot, as a demolition crew, you cannot make that happen unless you cut steel and put in explosives and control the whole thing by controlled explosions.
Whole zeitgeist, as they say, right?
Yeah, it would not have happened that way. So anyway, they divert me. They tell me to go to Orlando Executive Airport. And so now you've got all this traffic that otherwise needs all this runway room and multiple runways heading to a smaller, less capable runway. And so you're never supposed to fly a plane behind another plane because behind airplane wings is like a horizontal tornado. They're called wingtip vortices. So if you see a movie and a plane lands on a dirt runway, you'll see at the end it spirals up dust. Right. Okay, well
I've seen Top Gun.
There you go. There you go.
I've seen when they take off. I get your point.
So that comes off the wing, but it's a wicked tornado behind the wings. So if you land a plane behind another plane, you stand a good chance of being flipped. It'll just flip you right on your back. Wow. So they're telling us to land immediately. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to be landing behind other planes. So I was sweating. I was nervous. I didn't know what the hell was going on. What the hell is going on? Why are we doing this? Why am I landing behind a jet?
And you're all of 21, 22. Is that right around there?
I was 20, whatever, 21. Yeah, 22. Okay. 22. No, 22 at that time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 22. So I landed, got everybody out of the plane, parked the plane, walked upstairs, and that's whenever because we have a flight debriefing room, okay. Walked up the stairs, and that's when the Pentagon got hit, and everybody in that aviation school and all the instructors and all of us, we knew that was pretty much the beginning of the end. And that was the Airline Training Academy that I was at. So I went to Comair, owned by Delta, and then I went to Airline Training Academy, which is where they take you right before you go to the airlines.
Gotcha.
And it was pretty much over. So
they furloughed a lot of the pilots.
Oh yeah. I mean, right after 9/11, nobody wanted to fly. And as a business coach like you are, margins are everything, right? So they're buying fuel futures, and they're trying to bet on the future based on how many pennies it takes them to buy the fuel now versus the future, and what it's going to be and what their anticipated travel is.
So they were long, as they call it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, now travel was down by 30, 40%. Yeah, it was it. So, I had to pick a different path. And so I had a baby on the way, and oh shit, what do I do?
I got to start making money for sure. Are you living in Miami at the time? Or sorry, not Miami, but Florida in general?
Yeah, I was living in, at that time I was living in Orlando, and then I went to Comair in Sanford, Florida, which is 45 minutes north. Whenever I wanted to get into this industry, nobody would hire me. It was because I was young, number one. And when you're young, they think, okay, this kid doesn't know anything. He's probably just a young salesman. And maybe that was fair of them to say. But the truth of it is that I knew I wanted to do this. I knew I could do it. And I went to the top floor of a certain business. I won't mention their name. They're in Kansas City. And I tried to go interview with him. And, you know, he was your sweater vest guy, you know, pinky out, you know, probably went to a, you know, drank his coffee like this, and probably went to a well-to-do school and just really looked down on me because I was a kid from the not so good of the city, and you know, a little rough around the edges, and I didn't have his polished demeanor. And he said, you know, I appreciate you inquiring and applying, but we just don't think that you would be a good fit for us. And I asked him, well, why? And he just said, it's just not the right fit. And so you maybe check back in the future. And I thought about it for a second. And I stood up and I shook his hand and I said, you just made your biggest competitor. And I walked out of the room. And I knew a guy that worked there, and I still do know him. He's in his 70s now. And he told me that they laughed at me weekly because they would see my name online. They would see me here and there. They had a Tuesday meeting every morning, Tuesday, 9 a.m. And for months, they would kind of mock me. And then I sold a $3 million business that they didn't get, but they wanted to. And I sold a $5 million business that they tried to get. It kept going. And eventually, a couple years later, my name was not allowed to be mentioned because they knew that they didn't hire the right guy that day, and they knew I was pulling money out of their pockets.
That's the story I'm looking for. That right there is that story that kind of says, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. So your biggest fear is, I mean, there's a fear part of it that says, hopefully that person's never right? That I am a fit for this industry. And your biggest greed is to prove them wrong. I love those types of stories. Mm-hmm. I think they're very powerful, and I think it's what drives people. Now, you were self-motivated, it seemed like, obviously, since 8 years old. But just to have that extra fuel in the fire, that's fantastic. Made you not saying it made you, it was probably part of the success that you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I literally walked out of there irritated, but irritated enough to be motivated. And I was like, fuck these guys. Because I hate to be underestimated. I hate it. Because honestly, if I put my mind to do something, it's going to get done. And so like for them to treat me like that, I just took that long ride down the elevator and I walked out of there just like, fuck them, man. I'm going to go do this. And I outdid probably 7 or 8 other guys, just me alone. And so eventually they got the memo, like, yeah, he does know what he's doing. I don't know how he's beating me. I don't know how he's getting these contracts. I don't know. And it was because I brought entrepreneurial grit. I brought tenacity. I brought a sense of urgency. I brought a sense of, hey, I can do this for you, confidence that I'll get this done for you. And if I shake your hand and say, I'm going to do it for you, that's what I mean. Versus being a salesperson who's trying to hide behind credentials or whatever, because a lot of these guys that were selling businesses, they might have had like an executive position somewhere or something, but they've never built and sold companies like I had. They didn't have my background. So I came to them, to the business owners, with a background that they could identify with.
So I love that story. I got to ask you a question. You know, obviously in the industry for a period of time, do you think you created that story for anybody else? Is there anybody that came in your path along the way that you kind of said, I don't think you're a fit for us, and they're getting up every day at this point to prove you wrong? I know that even in my storied career of 25 years, I have people that I have, you know, let go. Obviously, I didn't think they were a fit for the position, or they didn't have the same level of heart or whatever it is. And the vast majority of them, you know, kind of go into safe jobs at that point, you know, something that obviously make ends meet. But there is one that I feel like I made a monster out of them, I guess is the best way to put it. And I always think, like, how would I have navigated that situation? But ultimately, my hands were tied in this situation. It was just too much. And if I would have, you know, kept them on, the result would have been, you know, almost detrimental to the entire team, I guess, sort of thing. So I always think about, you know, how I could have navigated that different, but I couldn't have.
Yeah, well, and if you made a monster out of somebody, then great. Then you helped them.
That's right.
And it's, in my experience, you're either helping somebody from a loving, encouraging way, or you don't subscribe to that, or you're just not wired that way, and it's more like drill sergeant. Well, unfortunately, if our drill sergeants and the people that make Marines and Navy SEALs and all this kind of stuff, if they did everything from a place of loving encouragement and didn't make animals out of them, then we wouldn't have the military we have. So there's no right or wrong way. So I think if you make an animal out of somebody out of love or light, and it's just as effective as maybe being harder on them, if the result is the same, then you did a good thing for them.
So you immediately get into this industry, or what's the next step?
No,
what's the next stop along the way?
No, I got back home, and a guy had a friend of mine at the time, a long-term friend of mine, Kurt, had said, "Hey, why don't you get in the mortgage industry?" And I said, "What's a mortgage?" Didn't know what a mortgage was. Didn't have a use for a mortgage at that time. No reason to even know about one. So he said, "Well, we sell mortgages." I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So he taught me how to do it. And then I said, "Well, what's the secret to this game? You know, like, I know all this stuff, but what's the real secret?" And he told me, and he said, "Just hit that phone. That's what you do."
Just bang and clang.
Yeah. So he gave me a script, and then you go off script, of course, because you find your own style or whatever. And so I did what he, wanted me to do. I did what he told me to do. And the idea is that maybe you can pull a couple apps, in a day or whatever, talk to a couple customers, and maybe you can refinance them or whatever.
That was the intention, try to find as many refinance situations as you can. Gotcha.
But then he told me to do that, and I did it. And I did it from, 9 a.m. till, 8 p.m. I stopped to grab some lunch and take a leak. That was about it. And so now they got stacked up this high, the files that I had. Well, you told me that I just needed to call. That's what you told me. Now we got a problem, because I've done exactly, and I did this more because of that same relentless nature I had as a kid. Same thing. I'm like, okay, call. Okay, I'll do it. So now I had all these files. And they just.
But now you have to administrate them. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, because I'm like, hey, if I'm going to do this, you need to be doing that, and
Right.
and now it was like pulling crocodile teeth to get help, and I ended up I learned it well enough that I ended up going to a good friend of mine. He's now dead, and I miss him. I miss him like crazy. His name is Mike Garrity, and I went to Mike and I said, "Man, I can do this." I said, I need a little bit of help, So I went to him. He was probably 40, 45 at the time, I guess. And he had known me all my life. And he saw me build my lawn company. He knew my relentless work ethic. He wrote me a check for 60 grand. It ended up costing me about 80 grand to start this company. And I started a mortgage company. And I built that company up.
Was he in the industry or just invested?
Just investor.
Just invested, got it.
Yeah, he invested and built that company up to about 110, 120 brokers. And I was brokering mortgages. I was brokering money. And I really understood what it was to broker. I mean, like when I was young, I would go get a job. I wasn't strong enough to do it. I would go get my brother, like, hey, come do this. I knew how to broker. I would buy something, I would sell something and make a margin off of it. I knew how to broker things. So now I'm in the mortgage world. Well, it's just brokering. And so I worked my ass off and had a kid on the way, and I built that company to 110 people, maybe even 120. Times were great. And during that time, I also built another company and sold it, but I didn't sell the mortgage company, and I should have. Okay. So in 2007, I should have sold that company. It probably would have sold for $9 or $10 million, but I didn't. And I had people walking in my office and saying, "Man, you built a hell of a company here. Why don't you sell your company?" And I'm like, why would I sell? I'm doing so well. So the saying now is, when you're doing well is the time to sell. Because in 2007, if I would have sold that company, I would have brought in, let's just say on a fire sale, $8 million. $8 million, if I follow the same playbook that another guy I know that ran a company like mine, he sold his for a couple million, threw it in Apple. Apple did fairly well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he did really well with that. And then right around 2012, 2013, he opened up the trampoline places,
Like the jumpy houses,
Sky Zone.
Sky Zone.
Zone.
Yeah.
He did that. And he's got like, I don't know, 150 of them across the country that are bringing in like 2 or 3 million a piece, a year, at least.
They are captivating. I've got kids. They love that place.
Yeah. So I didn't sell. And that liquidity event of say $8 or $10 million would have set my life in a totally different direction. So 08 happens. And I'm standing at an office down next to Union Station in Kansas City, overlooking the stockyards, overlooking the train tracks. Everybody had left at that point. All my staff had left. All I had was empty boxes, completely empty. The whole office was empty. Shit scattered everywhere. Chairs everywhere. I had friends that I thought loved me, people that had whiskey with me, and we had good times and laughs, and things that probably we shouldn't have done. We made a lot of bad decisions together. And there I stood at that window all by myself, looking out over Kansas City. I felt like the loneliest person on the planet. And I thought, how could I be in this mess? And it was because when things got tight, when things got hard, when things got rough, people went and cared about themselves. And that was tough for me, real tough. And so I spent the next several weeks unloading boxes, packing up, credit reports and everything that was sensitive information, calling the people to shred it, all that kind of stuff, finishing up taxes. I had signed 5 years of my leases because in 08, they shut the water off. We were selling mortgages. Okay, so I'm sitting in that office. It was over, 08.
And how many more years on that lease?
5.
5. Ooh.
Five leases, 5 locations for 5 years.
And that's all peppered around the Kansas City area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I go from being worth, if I were to create a liquidity event, I was worth 8 to 10 million. And I went to being $2 million underwater. Like this. So while Michael Bay or whatever his name is, the kind of, what is he? He's like Asperger's. He's the guy that shorted. That's what they made that big movie out of, The Big Short. He was shorting all the banks because he could see what was going on in the market. Me, I'm just stuck on stupid going, nah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Why would I sell my company? Come on. Why would I do that? And then, a good friend of mine, Dave Peterson, he's not coming around anymore. He was a mortgage rep. He's not coming around anymore. And I'm calling him like, hey, man, what are you doing? I'm not seeing you guys anymore. What's happening? Oh, Chad, they're not taking that kind of paper anymore. Things are changing. It was just, and all of a sudden it was off. So I stood in that office overlooking Kansas City and realizing back yet again, like it was 01 all over again. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? So went back to doing what I do, which is go start a company. Started a company.
Was it as wild as, they depict in The Big Short or any type of too big to fail and all that kind of stuff in terms of that real estate? You were, giving people 2 and 3 mortgages that didn't even normally qualify for one. Is that, I'm not necessarily implicating you. I'm just saying generally in the industry, was that acceptable?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked me that question. It's a great question and it needs to be addressed. So if right now, well, how about this? How about 30 years ago, you were told never to get in a car with a stranger, right? How many Ubers have you been in?
Right.
Okay. So when you look back, you can go, oh yeah, we shouldn't have done that. But but times changed. I mean, you got Bank of America, you've got Countrywide Bank, you've got Wells Fargo, you got IndyMac Bank. We're talking about huge institutions that are saying, hey, if they have a 680 credit score, then you can offer them this product and it only requires 3% down. It's like, well, you think I was doing something wrong? I'm not doing anything wrong. You guys are the banks. This is what you want. So there's the people that develop the programs, which if you really want to get down into the rabbit hole about it, I'll tell you who created these programs was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton created all those programs.
Unpack that for me for a moment.
Oh man, it's a big unpack.
Okay.
Okay, so Bill Clinton, what he obviously one of the smoothest, cleverest, crookedest politicians we've seen. Okay, we all know that. I somehow like him though, but he's a likable guy. But he wanted everybody to be able to own a home. Okay, and so because he wanted everybody to own a home, he ran on some of that, and he wanted opportunity for all and all that kind of thing.
Drove that American dream, right?
Yeah.
That was the true push that he had definitely for his election.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he made those things more easily accessible to everybody. And so credit got softened. You know, basically, okay, you don't have 15% down for a house. You don't have 4 years employment. You don't have steady, you know, all the lending requirements that were always needed. He got all those to be softened. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they're born, okay, post-Clinton. By the way, I've never talked about this. I've never explained this to people, but it's the first time ever. But Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that's all created basically by Bill Clinton's initiative. And so they are then, you know, offering products to everybody, and creditworthiness is not a thing anymore. So you get into like different cultures, like blacks were largely underserved, Hispanics largely underserved. Well, the whole thing was, okay, let's make things universally accessible to everybody. And that is the Democrat way, right? And I can't hate on them for it, but I don't think that that's exactly the right way to do it, especially whenever you go against creditworthiness and ability to pay back the loan, right? So it's the creditworthiness was dropped. The election was then grabbed by Bill Clinton because he ran on this. Everybody should have a home, but not everybody should have a home. Not everybody's responsible enough to be a homeowner. Not everybody's going to have the work ethic, the long-term wealth creation, job stability to be able to keep a home. So it got over fattened with people that weren't very stable, and it destabilized the entire mortgage market.
So you're putting these mortgages together. You have 5 locations. Is there times like where you're putting stuff through, going like, let's see what happens? In other words, like, is this person going to pass and get a mortgage?
Every
Even
single
though
time.
The rules were much different. Let's say 2 years ago, all of a sudden you're like, let's just see what happens.
Well, so we didn't have a control of that. Like, we're not the underwriters. So
Right.
yeah, we're throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. And so yeah, what you do is you get the credit reports, you get the tax returns, you get all that. You upload it into Desktop Underwriter, DU is what they call it. It'll spit out a decision. Well, if that decision says yes, it's a green light, go. Great, pretty much green lit. If it's green light with some caution, well, you got to go. You got to talk to the bank, talk to the lender, talk to the rep, get around some issues, and then get an exception to underwriting, and then boom, there you go.
Is that mostly administration, or is that negotiation at the same time, trying to get that individual funded? Like, could you manipulate around it? Could you have the silver tongue and change some of their decision-making process, or was it usually just administration?
Well, as a general rule, the underwriting is who makes all those decisions. We had no sway whatsoever.
Okay.
But I will tell you that favoritism is a thing. So let's just say that you worked somewhere and you're a high producing loan officer, and let's just say that you're cranking out 20 or 30 loans a month, you're smashing it, you're making $1 million a year because you're just an animal. If you send something up to underwriting and it doesn't look so hot, that underwriter will find a way to get it done if you're the producer, because they don't want to offend the producer. This is the guy that's making it rain.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to say no. And if you're not a very good producer and you send up a file that's kind of ugly, you're more than likely going to get a turn down.
So you're facing, you're underwater, $2 million at this point. Mm-hmm. What do we do?
Work your ass off.
Okay.
That's all I did. I
No bankruptcy or anything at that
no,
time? Or no?
No,
Okay.
I refused.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my rule is if I ever file bankruptcy, it's gonna make me money. If I ever have to file bankruptcy, do it one time, and it's gonna make me millions and millions of dollars. But
Okay.
I still don't think I'm gonna ever file bankruptcy.
Any negotiation to get you out of those 5-year leases? And
Yeah, I did it all.
Okay.
I did it all. I mean, they were after me for a long time. They were after me hard for about 2 years. And then the whole market was in the same boat. And so they had more fish to fry than me. And so the debt just expired. Whatever debt I couldn't pay off just expired. There were certain things I had to pay off, and then the rest I just let fall off.
So where do we go from there? Can we go
So-
right into this industry, or is there kind of a stopover?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was even doing this. I was even selling businesses back then. Again, I was selling money. I had the mortgage brokerage, but I was also helping other people with their companies that they owned. I was helping them sell it too.
Oh, I see. You were starting to.
Yeah, I was already do that. But then I started another entity too, and it was just I was with a woman and dating her, and I was at her house, and she's nagging at me that she wants the deck refinished. Right? I've never refinished the deck. I'm like, all right. I got tired of her, talking about it. I said, okay, I'll do it. So I just, did the guy thing, right? I'm like, Saturday I'll do it, get a couple beers, whatever, I'll knock this thing out. And it looked like total shit after I got done with it. So I realized that I'm not the only one that looks like total shit. So I went up to the hardware store and I said, man, this did not look good. Doesn't look like that picture on the can, I'll tell you that, kind of one of those deals. And so I did a deep dive on that. And now it's kind of like I just came here in your Cadillac, right? I've never seen one of those, but now that I've seen that, I'm going to see them everywhere.
Right.
That's just how our minds are, right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm driving around the city and I'm seeing all this in the Midwest and all the wood's gray and dingy and shitty. And so I started a company called Got Wood, and it got wood ?
Right.
And I started it, and it didn't take me long. I was making about $150,000 a year. I ran that company for 3 years, and I sold that company for $450,000.
Nice.
So liquidity event, and do another one, and do another one. That's what I did.
Is that a franchise at all? That I've actually seen that then, because I remember I was traveling as an analyst. I'd go to every city, every state, all over the place, and I remember that very specifically. Obviously, it's very catchy. So
yeah, I had 2 vans in Kansas City. So if you're in Kansas City, you might have seen us.
probably saw it.
Yeah, and it was fully wrapped, and it was looking good. So I sold that company for $450,000, and I just kept doing that. And meanwhile, I was brokering businesses. I was selling businesses. I was selling anything from manufacturing companies to distribution companies, restaurants, anything like that. And eventually, I got tired of building my own companies. As far as what I was doing, I built a roofing company, built a deck company, built a general contracting company. I just got tired of doing it, and so I just quit doing it and just solely focused on M&A work. And so I say I've been doing this stuff since I was 19 years old, because that was the first time that I sold my business.
Right.
Everything else is just like, it's not the widget that I'm doing; it's the same thing. It's like I'm trying to build a company to then try to create a liquidity event. That's always been my model.
When did you get the band back together? I obviously were you working on your own at that time in the brokerage side, and then you eventually get together and form partnerships and stuff like that. When does all that start forming?
Yeah, so I was really incredibly hesitant to feel like that again. I did not want to feel like I did in 2008, whenever I was standing and looking out that glass and nobody was around to help me, and it took me weeks in the hot sun to empty out that office. And so I was more of a lone soldier for a long time, and I didn't really want to bring on anybody else. And it's because I don't have to mess with other people. I don't have to be let down by other people. I can move like an operator, like I am, go out there and get things done, and not have to mess with all the headaches. But a very special man that I love dearly, he called me and said, "Hey man, I just lost my job. I think I want to come work with you." And I said, "You would be great at this." And he didn't think he would be, but he is. He's wonderful at it. And if you ask him, he'll say that was 8 years ago, but it was more like 10 or 11. And he came on board, and I said, "This is going to take me a lot to teach you how to do this." But he knew the banking side, real strong banking. He had been in the SBA world for a long time. I said, "This will take me a while to teach you this," and he was great. But I said, "If I ever do this again, people are going to have to contribute towards the cause." So what we did is we created Peterson Lamp HQ. We created an entity, and then all those other entities were off of that. So if you came to me in Texas, or if you came to me in Florida, whatever, you wanted to do this, you pay $54,000.
Okay.
And I'm going to teach you what I know.
Kind of like a franchise event, but
No, more like you put money into it, and then I'm going to put it right back out to you in the form of support, and I'm going to train the hell out of you, and I'm going to spend hours in front of the computer teaching you how to do this, and videos and Google leads and mail leads and all that, because it takes more than that to get somebody started. Really, to get somebody off the ground to be a broker, it takes more like 60, 70 grand. So there was no money in it for me on the front end, but it was just like you put money in, and that gets pushed back out to you as far as support. And then we come together as a group and we go nationwide. That's how we did it. And I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I'm not a single operator anymore, because I think that would have worn me out more so. But it was a flow, like work on your own and be in that grinding of working on your own and not having a support staff. And that felt comfortable for a while, to, if we want to get something really done here, we got to bring more people on.
How many partners do you have now? Do you call them partners? Do you call them employees?
Let's just say we've got, let's say 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. Do you kind of say, this feels right, this is good, and then start knocking down those walls again, in terms of being okay with, leaning on other people a little bit? Or working with other people?
For sure. I mean, listen, I have learned that you got to watch who you're going to do business with, because it's a very litigious environment. People will want to sue over everything. If you sneeze wrong, they want to sue you. So I brought some people on that were not good characters, and they believed they were owed something without working, and they wanted me to fix it all. They wanted me to fix their life. They made poor decisions before me. So it doesn't come without its a downside to bring in people on. And I'm sure you know this as a business owner. You've got people that have their own ways of thinking, and it's not always that logical. So I've paid the price for having people around me, but I think there's no other way around it. If you want to do bigger things, you can't do it on your own.
So I want to become a broker right now. Is that a Chad Peterson decision if I want to come into the fold, or is that a group decision?
It's a group decision.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my guys would be pissed off at me if I brought on somebody now that didn't fit with us. And I know that now, because when you think you're bringing on somebody that's a good fit, and they might be from a implementation standpoint, they might be from a, maybe they're smart, maybe they'll work hard, but there's a lot more to it than that, man. Like, are you going to be good to us? Are you going to be fair? Are you going to be straight with us? Are you deceptive? Are you authentic? And if any of those answers are kind of not, maybe sometimes, then Warren Buffett's quote, "You can't make a good deal with a bad person." You just can't. So I try not to make good deals with bad people.
You've done a lot, obviously. That's a lot of different entrepreneurial experiences, a lot of different companies and stuff. I know if I asked you this, because I know a little bit of your personality, I'd say, like, who do you want to be the most proud of you? And I think your answer immediately, just on the surface, would be, myself. I want to be proud of myself. But is there anybody in that group that we've gone through, whether it's your grandfather, your grandmother, your mother, your father, is there somebody that you hope is looking down on you now and saying, "I'm proud of what you've become"?
No. And I think that family is oftentimes overrated. I believe that is more common than uncommon. I think family can oftentimes be more overrated than what it's really prescribed as. I think that we come into this physical experience, into this earth, from a non-physical realm, is what I believe. And I believe that we're born into our family the majority of the time by purposes of contrast. Contrast meaning knowing what you want and what you don't want. And I was born into a lot of contrast. And that contrast is a spiritual word to describe a soul that's born into a family that has to go do things and figure out what he needs to do for himself. There's a lot of them out there. Tony Robbins, born into a lot of contrast. A lot of Jim Rohn, born into a lot of contrast. A lot of famous, powerful people were born into hell, and that's what drove them.
That's what I was saying. Do you think that creates that impetus that says, I don't like the person or this grouping or what I'm being identified as? Also, now I'm going to be driving almost, like, I hate to use the word kill off, but kill off that stigmatism associated with seeing that. Do you think that is the drive you see?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, family wasn't worth it. So no, my family, I don't want to. I would say the guys that I work with, I would say the people that I work with, because I want everybody to do well. That's what my heart's made of. I want everybody to do well. So I'm doing my part, And I want everything that I do is for the collective, the greater good of the collective. The people that I work with are my family.
Would you define yourself as a workaholic?
Probably. But I don't know. I mean, I would think anybody would say yes, I am, but I don't know what the hell people do with their time.
Otherwise?
Well, if you got 168 hours a week,
Okay.
and you like what you do, what the hell else are you going to do? If you like what you do. I mean, I don't play video games. I don't watch sports. I don't play backgammon. I don't play pickleball. I
Do you
don't
have a vice at all?
It used to be women and whiskey, but now I'm down to one woman. So I don't think I do. I like good whiskey, but it used to be women and whiskey was my vice.
But you like the game, the brokerage game, obviously. Do you want to be recognized more for the education? Because, I mean, you've written a couple books. When I've sat down with you in the past, you know, it was, let me educate you, right? And so is that sexier than the actual capacity of the brokerage side of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm less of a broker now personally than I've ever been because I've been in leadership and education and training for so long that you get out of that lane. Like some of the people that work with me are almost, if not better brokers than me now. I mean, from a tolerance standpoint, dealing with the customers throughout the entire, journey. I've done it so long that my bedside manner is not as good. So, but I still do deals. Like I got a deal getting ready to close right now. But
Do you do your own paperwork still?
yeah,
Oh, you do your own paperwork?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But what I'm saying is to do all that, I'm not as much that. To answer your question though, I really enjoy seeing other people win. I love seeing other people succeed, and I really do all that. I do everything I do through that lens. And I bet if I just wanted to go broker and just care about myself, maybe I could just, maybe make more money because I can go be relentless and just stack up deals. But I love when people get paid. I love when people love their life. So if I wanted people to be proud of me, it's probably the people that I work with because I'm doing real life with these people. Like what my people that work with me, their lives, their wives, their kids are affected by the decisions that I make. And so if I make a mistake, then I work twice as hard to fix it because I got people that rely on me.
There was the founder of the company I work for. He had this one saying that I want anybody that comes to me to do better here than they have ever done in life. And I took that very seriously as I moved up through the company and went into senior executive positions, et cetera. That still is driven. And I think we see eye to eye absolutely in that. I think it's actually a great thing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, when people come to me and they got to put in the work though, I mean, I'll do everything to help them, but they got to put in the work. And not only do I love seeing the people that I work with, most people that come into my experience, they make more money with me than they ever have in their life before. They're making $100,000, $200,000 paychecks. They've never seen that kind of money before. And I love that. But equally, as long as we have a good relationship with the buyer and the seller throughout the whole process, which is more on the buyer or the seller than it is us, because they gotta wrestle with a whole lot of emotions to get their business sold. And if they can wrestle with those emotions well, and they can be a good customer with us, I love seeing that business owner walk away with $3, $4, $5 million in their pockets. And
Same feeling.
Yeah, right. And I love seeing that massive win. And then I like teaching them how to take those next steps after they sell their business so they can keep it moving.
So I've heard you say you never want to retire. It may happen one day, but I've heard you say you never want to retire. Is that your legacy then? In terms of that, it's the employees, it's the individuals that sell their businesses, the ones that obviously cash out for something they never dreamed the amount of money they're going to see. Is that really your badge of honor and the legacy you're looking for?
I just don't think that it's good for a man to retire. I think if you study the blue zones where they live over 100 years old, they don't retire. They might not work that much, or they might not do anything that's too hard for them, but they're always working. I think you should always work. I think that is a general rule. If sitting on your nuts and not doing anything was the goal, then Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, Donald Trump, they would all just do nothing. And nobody can convince me that that's the goal. It just can't be. So for me, I want to work with people that I enjoy working with, and I want their lives to be incredible, and I want to smile and laugh and have a good time and be around authentic people that I can work with for the next 20 or 30 years or however long. I just lost a good friend of mine last week. His name was Art Fillmore. He was my very dear friend, highly decorated combat veteran that had tons of PTSD and didn't give a shit. He worked for everybody else. He made sure that vets got housing, vets got jobs. He raised millions and probably $20 million through the Catholic Church to run Operation Stand Down, which is kind of like Wounded Warrior, but he didn't pay himself out of it. All the money went to the vets. He would go hang out at the veteran hall and talk to all the vets, and he would. I loved him. Okay, he was with me for 15 years, 18 years doing what I do, and he just died last week. But he worked until his last breath, and I talked to him. One of his last breaths was with me last week. Oh, wow. And so, like, when you think about that, I miss him.
Understood. He worked with you, or he worked in the same industry? Which one was that?
That upset me a little bit.
Understood.
It's not about money, man. It's about who you work with.
Relationships.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's like how do you help other people? That's what it's about.
In terms of, I'll ask a lighter question. How about that?
You're fine.
You've been in so many different industries. Is there one industry that you never got into? One where like that little 8-year-old boy said, I know we wanted to be a pilot, and so on and so forth. Is there something you ever wanted to be and never became? Since you've worn so many different hats, construction, et cetera.
I don't know, man. Pornography, but they wouldn't hire me for some reason. I don't know what it was.
Is the beard?
I think so.
Getting in the
I
way?
don't know. Yeah, they told me something I was too short or something. I don't know what it was. No, I mean, I probably could have gone and done anything. I probably could have, I've got the aptitude, the skill set to go do anything, but I just didn't have my focus on that. I had my focus on other things, like whatever was right in front of me, like, selling a business, building a business, whatever.
Is there a what's next? Is this the same thing we're going to stay in until whatever the time is as it relates to your exit? Whatever does that mean? Or is there something next?
Well, if I end up absolutely hating what I do for a living, I won't do it. So, I love what I do. I love working with people that I work with and doing what I do. If I end up not liking it, I got to quit. So, where there's no passion, there's no profit. So if you're not passionate about something, you're not going to be doing very well at it. So when it's my time to hang it up because of that, yeah, I'll be glad to be done with it. But for now, no, I love what I do, love the people I work with, and the more deals we can do, the more lives we can change, the more money that we can move forward, the more people we can make wealthy. Yeah, and as long as I'm with my people, then yeah, we're good. I'll keep doing it.
Chad, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you're obviously a great leader, and moreover, obviously a great friend. So
yeah,
I appreciate being here, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.